So I am reading this book called Shrinking the Integrity Gap by Jeff and Terra Mattson. And it's been a really good book. And there are a couple things that I want to share before I jump into the topic I want to get to tonight. And sometimes you just have to laugh because this just lets me know that we really need to talk about this subject. And I don't think that I'm going to spend a lot of time on this subject tonight. I think it's just going to be a prelude to probably many things that we talk about. And I think this book covers a lot of subjects that I really want to touch on, especially when it comes down to leadership and the things that we really need to address, whether we have been a leader for, if we are a seasoned leader, if we have been a leader for, an adequate amount of time, or maybe we're even an emerging leader. There are just so many internal things that I don't think, if you're not aware of, that happen, how trauma triggers, how those things really impact us and show up in our leadership journey. And so we'll get there. Anyway, oh, by the way, I'm Tiffany, and here on this channel, we are learning to lead ourselves well so we can serve others better. And I'm going to be talking about leadership and addiction today. So I'm going to share this quote from this book. It says, "A leader is a person who must take special responsibility for what's going on inside him or her, inside his or her consciousness, lest the act of leadership create more harm than good." Parker Palmer, Leading from Within. And before I jump into what I wanted to talk about tonight, I wanted to share what they defined as an integrity gap. An integrity gap is the distance between the values we preach, so what we say about ourselves and what others what we say about ourselves and want others to believe about us, and the values we actually live out in front of other people or when no one sees. So, like I said, a little bit of a heavier topic, and I don't think it needs to be heavy, but I do think it needs to be something that not only needs to be addressed, but we need to be thinking about. And I thought this was an interesting subject to bring up. First and foremost, this was a topic that came to mind while I was in the shower getting ready for church this morning, and the Holy Spirit just dropped it in my heart to speak about leadership and the secret addictions that typically leaders have. And leaders are people too, obviously. And so we are all subject to vices. And I'm not coming here to you as a viceless free person or a perfect person who has never struggled with some type of coping or some type of addiction or some type of using something to numb or escape, especially previously pre-Christ, BC, before Christ. And many of you that have watched my previous videos know that I have been focusing on nutrition in this new year. And so just with focusing on nutrition, I've really come to understand where I was at the end of last year, and just starting to, it was beyond a sweet tooth. It had gotten beyond a sweet tooth. I was really starting to go for sugary drinks, sugary foods, things that were going to soothe or bring comfort rather than nutrition. And even when I knew in my brain that I should get something that was going to fuel my body, I chose something else that was going to feel better in the moment. And oftentimes, especially when you're a Christian, you think that once you come to Christ, it's all gone. You don't struggle anymore. You don't have hard days anymore. You don't have a hard life. And that's not the case. And even getting sober, there were still there were beyond times. There was still a lot of times where the temptation to drink would come up, the temptation to cope would come up, because that's what I knew to do in the past when I got stressed, triggered, especially when I did not have outlets to do anything else. When I had work, when all I did was go home, work and went home, I wasn't taking care of my body. I wasn't eating well. I was just working, living for the weekend. And when the weekend came, I would go do my thing, hang out, party, the glitz, glam, the party, and the fashion, and roll over on Monday and do it all over again. And so, not that if we're not careful, that our lifestyle and vices and addictions will creep into will show up in our leadership, but they absolutely will. It's not if, it's when. Especially if you have unhealed trauma or you have unaddressed triggers and you do not know how to, you don't have any type of like safeguards or frameworks, self-directive frameworks put in place to ensure that when you're triggered in the moment, because you will absolutely be triggered in leadership. You will be triggered. And so if those things are not in place, even if they are in place, it's still going to spill into your leadership. And so back to where I was at the end of last year, I was just noticing that the way that I was eating had gotten so out of control as far as just wanting the sugar. And noticing that even when I knew I needed something nutritious, I still went for the sugar. And living alone, there's nobody here to stop me. There's nobody here to say, hey, I'm noticing that you've had 6, 7, 8 cookies. Maybe pick up a bowl of fruit or something. Nobody's here to do that. Just the Lord here to convict me. And thank God he did. And so that's what really inspired me to go on this journey, this nutrition journey, to reset my body. And I will tell you, not even the first few days, because I've only been on it. It's almost been a week. And I will tell you, the first few days, I don't think I had even gotten to day 4 yet. And the food noise, my body was screaming for the refined sugars. And I knew it wasn't just wanting something, just like natural sugars that come from fruits or whatever. It was wanting those refined sugars. And so it became very apparent to me that I was using it as a vice. It was easily becoming into, it was getting into addiction territory. And so thank God he stepped in and was like, let's nip this in the bud before we really have something else to deal with. And so on this channel, this is a faith-based channel, but these concepts are universal. So anything I talk about, this can be applied to anyone, whether you subscribe to Christianity or not. But how we lead, how we show up, often starts in our personal lives. Not often, it does start in our personal lives. And we talk about managing ourselves on this channel day in and day out. And we might think that we're getting away with our lifestyle, even if we're not talking about it, even if we're not sharing it on our social media. It's funny how life has a way, and our lifestyles have a way of catching up with us. And the subtle ways it starts to creep into our professional lives. And there will come a time where maybe it started as a chip. Then that chip turns into a crack. And then that crack turns into a crevice, and that crevice turns into a gaping hole. And then all of a sudden, your whole life, you're falling into this pit of disaster because of the things that you do in your personal life. And I'm not preaching about, you need to do this, you need to do that. I'm not here to tell you what to do at all. I'm telling you about my experience. And I certainly have experienced my personal life impacting my professional life in major ways because I was making poor personal decisions. And just like the quote said, it said, a leader is a person who must take special responsibility for what's going on inside him or herself, inside his or her consciousness. Lest the active leadership create more harm than good. Because in this book, it talks about how the integrity gap is created by how what am I trying to say? The integrity gap is created by how we're living our lives. Like, so say, do you practice what you preach? Basically, do you practice what you preach? So if I say I'm an integral person, I'm honest, I'm trustworthy, I'm reliable, and, that's what I tell people, and that's what I would want people to think about me. But then I go and steal money from the company. That's an integrity gap. That is an integrity gap because that is not practicing what I preach. And so it talks about in the book how it doesn't just impact one sector, it impacts all kinds of sectors: government, medicine, sports, entertainment, business, education, the church. My God, the church. I mean, our own moral failures and how we choose to show up in our personal lives can really just leave a disaster, a wake of leadership disasters for the people that we are leading. And so it's not just about showing up on Monday morning on time with your shirt pressed and ready to go with a smile on your face. It's about all the internal work. It's all the things that could possibly show up and create a stumbling block for you and other people. Because I've talked about in the past, me experiencing my authority being challenged pulled me out of character because it was a trigger that I had not dealt with, because I've dealt with people belittling me in the past, or, thinking less of me, or whatever it might be. That was a trigger I had not dealt with. And so when I thought somebody was challenging me, or she wasn't, I didn't think, she definitely was challenging me for sure. But just because she was challenging my authority doesn't mean that I should have lost my temper. I should have allowed that situation to pull me out of character. And addictions don't necessarily just have to be smoking, drinking, all the normal things. It doesn't necessarily have to be that. It can be pride. It can be, the book even talks about how, things that we've talked about on this channel, using excellence, busyness, using those things to stay distracted. So we really have to identify. And honestly, I don't think it's really about identifying, because you know what you're latched on to. And there's something about addiction that has us compromising or exchanging, or it hijacks our best qualities, and we might be able to pretend for a long time We might be able to be a master of disguise for a long time, but there's always a time where there's a crack in the mask or in the armor, whatever. And so for whatever reason, God put it on my heart to talk about that today. And it's not something where we're going to get super in depth. It might be just for us to reflect today and where you are and what personal choices that you're making. And again, please don't hear judgment because I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing. My only concern is for you to be the best leader you possibly can be. Christ filled, if that's what you want. But again, this is a faith-based channel with universal concepts. So I want you to get out of this channel what you want out of this channel. But also, we have to hold ourselves accountable to the lives that we lead. And how can we be keen on the needs of others if we're not even in tune with our own? We might try to be, and maybe that could be another distraction. You're so worried about other people that you can't take care of yourself. And maybe that's where you need to start today, is taking care of yourself. Maybe your addiction is being concerned with other people. And so instead of being concerned about other people, you need to start doing the internal work. Because it's easy as a leader because you've got all these people to worry about, or maybe it's just one other person, or maybe family members or children or whatever it might be. It's easy to get lost in taking care of others or taking care of other situations or making sure that everything's running smoothly, that you totally just throw yourself to the wayside. But that doesn't help anybody because you will crash and burn. But again, really, I think this is just a reflection point today. I don't think it's meant to dive deep. I think these are topics we're going to continue to address on this channel today. But what is it? What are you dealing with? Is it a substance? Is it identity thing? Is it busyness? Is it excelling? What is it? What is the thing that is allowing you to mask, allowing you to hide? So I'm going to leave it there. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and we will talk soon. Thanks for being here. Bye-bye.